Hi everyone. Today's tutorial of alcohol ink on vellum starts out much the same as the others have, and that is with a pad of 55-pound Canson vellum. Not a special vellum, I probably got it at a stationery supply store. Some Scotch tape to hold down the edges of the vellum, which you can see attached to my Lazy Susan. And I've put, that's a 9 by 12 sheet by the way, and I've put an 8.5 by 11 white sheet underneath to give you a bit more brightness as I'm working. My alcoholic ink mixture, which is isopropyl alcohol and a couple of drops of this very deep passion purple by Jacquard Pinata ink, is what I'm going to use in the background. And I'm thinking a galaxy type of look initially. That's not what it ended up being. I like it better, actually. But I'm holding up a few inks. There were 9 altogether that I had put aside as potentially useful. So we've got the Ranger Amethyst Turquoise Dandelion and the Pinata Senorita Magenta, as well as Passion Purple. There's a couple of blacks and a couple of whites. There's a white and a pearl mixative. I never ended up using those either because I didn't get around to the galaxy idea, and I had enough ink on the page, as you'll see as we move along. So I will try and call out the correct colors. And I pulled out, yeah, I just knew I needed some lightness in there besides the white, and so I pulled out Dandelion, and that's also a Ranger ink. So I start out with a few drops of the Dandelion, and in general, when I started out here, I thought, well, I'll kind of have the light coming from one direction, that way. And it won't be going that direction, it'll be coming from the upper left. So I left most of the lightness in that general area. And in I come with the turquoise, one of my absolutely favorite. Well, almost every color is my favorite, really, so I shouldn't say that, but really do love this color. And I'm just letting them do what they do. They spread out. They make mostly a circular, when I say they, the drops of alcohol, mostly a circular pattern. If there's bits of oil or residue of any kind on your vellum or on Yupo, which is another type of synthetic paper, those things will act as a resist. Even just a bit of cream on your hands or anything, the oils from your fingertips, food. So you want to handle it very carefully. I always keep some hand sanitizer around because it's got alcohol in it. It allows me to quickly clean my hands and make sure I don't have any residue, which I've done before I started doing the videotaping. So I've dropped in a couple of more colors there. The last one I'm doing here is the Senorita Magenta, which is a really, again, another amazing color. And I've already put in some Passion Purple, which is the very dark one, and Amethyst, which is the lighter purple. So we've got a lot going on. And really, not a necessary step, it's just something I've gotten accustomed to. I heat set it with my craft dryer. That is not a heat tool, it's just a portable hair dryer. So it just goes at variable speeds, high and low. It puts out a nice light heat, something that wouldn't burn your head or your hands or start alcohol on fire. And because we're using isopropyl alcohol here, and by the way, that bottle that I've got in the background, I should have shut that. And I think I'm pretty good about it for the rest of the video. I'm pretty sure I made a mental note that that was not a good example to set. The bottles, if they tip over, tend not to dribble and fall all over the place, but the real point here is that they have alcohol in them, particularly that alcoholic mix that I have, the wash of isopropyl alcohol and a little bit of, in this case, purple ink, because it goes with most everything that I have and planned to use for this piece, which were some of the darker purpley blue colors. And you don't want the alcohol drifting out into the atmosphere, especially around your face. And just to make a point here, as I often do in my videos, not only should that, there we go, the lid be kept shut, but also keep that blower, if you're using a hair dryer or a craft dryer, try to aim it. This is why I'm using a Lazy Susan, because it gives me a lot of flexibility, but try to keep that nozzle with the heat aimed away from you, because what it's doing is it's blowing over the alcohol, and as the alcohol and the ink is evaporating, but most particularly the alcohol, it's releasing it's chemicals, and I'm not a chemist. I'm not going to tell you what chemicals they are, but let's just say not good stuff to be breathing in. Not great if you've got asthma, if somebody in your home has asthma, if you have pets, birds most particularly, because they don't have exceptional breathing systems like we do. They can't filter as well as we can. So you need to have great ventilation. You need to be very safety conscious. You could wear a ventilator if you wish to, but the big thing is you should have open windows, and failing that, you need to have a great air exhaust system. And that is a system like over a stove, for example, where it is an exhaust fan that can go on very high and really pull the air right out of the room, which includes these fumes, and out of the house. And I happen to have that right behind me in the space you see. My studio is in what we call a summer kitchen in the basement of our home, and it has a stove and fridge and all of that good stuff, and the stove has a nice exhaust fan over it, and it is the perfect thing to have right next to me. There's also a bathroom down there with a fan, an exhaust fan, which I often have going at the same time. If I wanted to be even more vigilant about it, I could have another fan running facing me to make sure that all those vapors got carried over to where that stove and bathroom exhaust are. I don't do that because I'm not doing this en masse. I do these projects one at a time, probably, I will say never more than one a day, but I've done a couple a day recently. So really, just a safety thing. And what I'm doing as we're going along here is I'm moving that ink that I've dropped down. As you can watch me, I'm dropping bits of the wash over the circular bits or the very dark places where I've dropped the alcohol ink to begin with. And the darkness tells you that that's where the pigment is. The alcohol in that wash bottle has the effect of breaking down the pigment in the alcohol, which you can actually see. You can't get a great view of it here, but as I direct the air at it, you can see where it's really spread out that pigment, and it's moving back and forth, and it's creating new colors with the colors next to it. Some of them are brownish. The one I'm on top of right now is quite brown. That will happen with yellow and red and blue, or just a lot of colors together. They tend to make kind of a brown. Sometimes it's a very appealing brown, and sometimes it's not. So in this case, I've decided to leave it. As I'm working this piece, I am seeing a lot more opportunity for something that looks a lot brighter and lighter than that galaxy that I had started to envision when I first sat down to do this background. And at one point, I am almost there. I'm picking up a little bit of brown because it just is, when the purple and yellow mix, they go from gold to brown very quickly. And I don't want it to overtake the other bright colors in that genital area. That's always an option for you. But when I started looking at this at around this point, I could start to visualize, and again, this is an abstract. This isn't meant to be a depiction of an actual scene, but I recall going to flower markets many years ago in the city of Vancouver, where I used to live, and we used to go down to an open-air market probably once a week and pick up flowers, and they had the most incredible array of colors that I had ever seen. I had moved there from a very cold part of Canada and wasn't accustomed to seeing that type of selection. It was so vast, and then the amazing colors. So that's what this reminded me of initially as we started going through it. And it's about here where I thought, I don't think I want to turn this into a galaxy at all. I think I want to show what it has unfolded itself. And that purple next to the yellow, which has turned sort of a gold color to me, is just so beautiful. I really like that. And at this point, whoops, tape came off a little bit, probably because the alcohol seeped over and loosened up the adhesive on the tape. But what I'm starting to realize is that I want this piece to have a fair bit of negative space. I want to leave some of the white at the edges. It's starting to look more like a fantasy land to me. And there's a place that you can see next to where the dryer is right now, where there's a little turquoise colored dot, and I'll end up coming to that. what it looks like in my mind's eye when you see the finished piece is that that dot almost looks like sky in a cavern, and that you're looking through a very interesting land through that cavern and into another place. So that's what I started to visualize as I was going through this part of the process. So really what my purpose now is working some of the darker areas, moving the those pigments from the inks around just a bit more, getting a little bit more wispy, a little bit more cloud-like, and playing up the idea of the topography, mountainous area, caverns, that kind of thing. So I happen to be getting a lot of little flips and curls and things, which you often can do with this type of technique. And I really appreciated them a lot. They just add a lot of interest to what's going on here. And you'll also notice in the positioning of the dryer that as I do, for example, in this area where again I'm reluctant to have that yellow and purple come together because it's making brown. And so what I'll do is hold the dryer in a moment almost straight up and down, because what I'm trying to do is, there we go, I'm pushing out the dark pigments and leaving as much of that yellowish tone in the center as I can. And I just found that when I did that, aiming straight down at the sheet, it created some interesting tracks of the ink. So as you can see, it moves around and over top of the inks that are already there, and it creates a whole new shape. And it, because of the way I held that dryer straight above, and I'll do it again a couple more times, I'm just now hitting that little turquoise piece so that I can spread the turquoise color out, and I'm really creating some sort of shadows around the edge of where that turquoise color is. And that's what at the end, when I finish this piece, this really resembles almost an opening or a cavern within this very fanciful looking land. I'm sure you'll see other things in it. Everybody sees a bunny. There will be a bunny there somewhere, and perhaps a couple of flowers too. I say it is whatever you see in it. That is abstract art. That's art, period. And whether it's music or visual, I think really it's the most important thing is that it evokes feelings in you, and that you see things that make you feel, whether that's a good feeling or not. So as I continue to work, I come to the what is the age-old question in this technique is, when do I stop? And at this point, I'm beginning to really think that it is pretty much done, that I don't want to overwork it. And gee, did I make a liar of myself by... I don't know, I can't remember. I think I might have actually stopped. No. Yeah, this is the point where I really had to stop and stand back and take a look, and there I'll show you where I've decided to end it. And that is, yeah, that's a wrap. And thanks for being here. Bye for now.